Hi, hello, welcome to Spell a Day. We're covering a spell every single day of the year from the 5e PHB +3. The +3 are homebrew, or at +1 at the moment. You can go back in the playlist to find that. And today's spell... What is today's spell? Gentle Repose. Second level Necromancy, Ritual, casting time of 1 action, range of touch, components verbal somatic material, a pinch of salt, and 1 copper piece placed on each of the corpse's eyes, which must remain there for the duration. Duration, 10 days. You touch a corpse or other remains for the duration, the target is protected from decay and can't become undead. The spell also effectively extends the time limit on raising the target from the dead, since days spent under the influence of the spell don't count against the time limit of spells such as Raise Dead. It's good, and another that will be found in a lot of places. So, first off, it's in action already, which is pretty good. I'm middle of combat. If you don't have Revivify immediately in your party, which... I mean, it's a low-level spell, so you might not. Or not have the diamonds repaired, and you can Revivify them later, or bring them to some kind of temple. Player goes down, cast Gentle Repose on them. That timer won't tick away. 10 days? That's not bad. Costs a 2nd level spell slot to cast that in the moment. Still not that bad for that trait. In the middle of combat or the heat of battle, but the fact it's also a ritual, you could just keep extending this. You could keep extending this if you get there in time. Even if you don't get there in time, for raising that effect of Raise Dead or similar spells that can resurrect, it does also just stop undead. You can't animate the corpse while the corpse is under the spell's effect, which can be dispelled in a few ways. One, the basic dispel anti-magic, but also if you just remove the coins from the eyes, because it says it has to be there for the whole duration or else the spell ends. It doesn't say the spell ends part, but it just says it has to be there for the whole duration. Also, technically has a gold cost. Not a gold it's a copper cost, and it's 2 copper. Well, I guess the eyes of the creature. If you're missing an eye, do you just need 1? That's the classic, you don't call a burial rite classic, do you? It's the whole thing about ritualistically putting coins on the eye so the ferrymen can take them, or they can pay for it, or the passage into the afterlife. But I find it a bit funny, because the whole idea is to not... I guess you're paying for protection? Is that the idea? Because you can't be raised? Or you can't become undead, that is. The fact it's 2nd level in a ritual? In my setting, the few clerics that there are, the few people that can cast miracles, as they call them, under certain churches or under the various graveyards and sites, daily go through and attempt to cast this over as many people as possible up until because it takes 10 minutes to cast a ritual, but it doesn't take the spell slot, so you can just keep casting it that day, and it lasts 10 days. So one cleric who's efficient with their time can affect and cover a lot of corpses, so an entire graveyard or mausoleum isn't raised as undead. So if necromancy's a problem, or you have some equivalent to the Raven Queen, they'd have this, and they would keep doing this. Because also, it's not that expensive. You could keep the coins on, the coins aren't consumed, so as long as the coins are kept on the corpse, it's fine. Just don't disturb the body. And it can't be raised. Also, it can be, well, that's the other part. It can be raised a bit later. So there is the scenario, which we talked about, the adventurers that can't raise their friend at the time, because it's a 2nd level spell, so they get it a bit earlier. But now, let's say you have a character who... There's other spells that can do this better, Sequester, Flesh to Stone even, but they've died. Well, I guess Flesh to Stone, they're already dead at this point. Flesh to Stone one. Anyway, person's died. That's bad. But they got to the body in time for one of those resurrection spells. They just happen to have this keep preserving them, namely for the undead thing possibly. But this means that if this ritual has just been kept going, if it happened to line up with one of those Raise Dead times, and you just kept this ritual going with the example of the church organization I brought up earlier, or something similar. Again, it's a ritual. You could just keep casting this every 10 days, or within 10 days. Then just, even with a lower level resurrection spell, you could bring someone back for however long this ritual cycle has kept going. A temple where some hero had been slain, but has been waiting to be raised, and has been kept in this state with these rituals going over them on their altar. And then one day, when the person with the resurrection spell comes in, they come back. It also depends how resurrection is how accessible or possible resurrection is within your setting. If it's very easily common, then this scenario doesn't make that much sense. They would have just raised him already. Not to mention there's other ways of preserving it, but it's a 2nd level spell slot. This is probably the easiest way people have at preserving that. The Flesh to Stone, 6th level spell, target likely has to already be alive, I think. Sequester, even higher, and takes that massive gold cost. Also doesn't bring them back, because if they've already died. So theoretically, if you get to the body in time, and you don't have access to, or your society or group doesn't have access to raise dead but is waiting for it, you could just keep doing this over the same corpse, or this, like, a great saint from long ago waiting for a new champion of their god to come. A paladin who died under this conquest, or fighting this demon under this god, and is waiting for another champion of that same church or god to come back and raise them and bring them back into the fold. It doesn't have to be specifically that, but it's a neat, I guess. I was gonna say something else, but it's a cool idea. Or at least thematic. Doesn't need to be touch, though. Touch doesn't bother it that much. This is mostly out of combat. I guess in the middle of combat, though, you have to be next to the person who just went down. Or get to them. I mean, it's not bad. Again, second level, it's not bad. It's just very particular. World building wise, the church organization, because I would see clerics doing that on graveyards, especially if they're against necromancy or undead. Like, we just need to make sure no one comes back as zombies or skeletons here, or stopping ghosts. Does that also stop ghosts? If their corpse is preserved this way? Does that, because it says that they can't become undead. Not that they just can't be raised as undead, or animated as undead. So they can't become a ghoul, a wight, a zombie, a skeleton. Can they not become a wraith? Can they not become a ghost? Can they not become a lich? I don't know how you happen to time that one, but I'm about to give the rating, but I also want other possible scenarios I might have missed out, or situations or storylines that can be set up with the spell or ritual. So mention it in the comments below. I'll be really interested in those. 7 out of 10. It's a bit particular in its uses, especially with the raised dead case, but when you need it, it would be great. Both in the undead sense, especially if an adventuring party member is in threat of being raised, and you got that action to cast it and stop it. But it'd be good. It's not the most amazing because it's so niche, but for the level you get, the fact it's also a ritual, and even though it has a coin cost, it's only 2 copper and it's not expended. It's not bad. So 7 out of 10, it's a respectable spell. It's a respectable spell.